All right. Welcome everybody to our Now What Q&A webinar with Joe Frank and Greg Given. We're going to talk about the quick pivot that everyone had to do to working remotely. See all of our houses of us that are on screen behind us here. And just talk about that quick pivot to cloud and collaboration and now what? Now what do we do? So I am going to start off by introducing or asking for introductions, I should say, from our speakers. Joe, if you would like to introduce yourself. Joe, Greg.
Yeah, so I'm here. Can you hear me, Amanda?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, Joe, we can't quite hear you. I mean, Joe was having some technical issues this morning, so how about this? We'll give Joe a minute, and Greg, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody here, if they might not know you.
Sure. So, everyone, my name is Greg Given. Worked in IT since the late 1990s. I have a background in systems administration, networking, security, and also collaboration technologies. Cisco certified CCNP engineer. And I was at Emerge previously for 10 years from 2008 to 2018. And more recently, I'm back by popular demand as a senior solutions architect at Emerge.
Awesome. I think let's all right. Fingers crossed for Joe, folks. Hey Joe, are you with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. This is what we're supposed to be talking about today, right?
Right, exactly, that you can overcome anything. So, Joe, now that you're here, go ahead and introduce yourself to the group.
So my name's Joe Frank. I'm the Data Center Cloud Services Manager. I've been with Emerge for about 12 years now. My background is mostly engineering and management as well, but Cisco, Microsoft, VMware platform. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, thank you. So we do want this to be as interactive as possible. If you have questions, please go to either the chat or the Q&A. I will be monitoring that throughout and throwing out your questions to Greg and Joe. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. Joe, I'm going to throw it over to you to kind of do that, a little bit of a deep dive, technical, speak, and get us going.
That sounds great, Amanda. Thank you. I'll try to keep this as non-technical as possible. Obviously, that's what we're here to understand a little bit better. So, Emerge has been providing cloud services for over 10 years now. I was with the company when we started to talk to customers about cloud or hosted services many years ago. And we've helped a lot of those customers, stabilize their IT operation, centralize services, and also provide I'll say a better environment for most of their computing needs, be it hosted voice or even, server systems, things like that. So I've been doing this for a long time. Obviously, it's evolved over that time as well, bringing us to where we are today. Last year, Amanda, when we all started talking about how we wanted to present cloud options to our customers as alternatives to on-premise replacement or, that continued cycle, and to talk about the benefits that the cloud provided, excuse me, we certainly had no idea what was in store, for the first half of 2020 back then. So, we have a lot of customers that do take advantage of the different benefits of cloud, but we also have a lot of customers and potential customers that still have been on that fence. So, what we've had to do the past few months is be thrown into a world where cloud is kind of the new norm. It's remote work, it's remote access of data and services and systems. So, what does that mean? Most of them had to do it, like I said, on a dime, and just make that quick change. Many of them were forced to adapt or adopt technology that they'd never used before. I'll say a short story. My wife works with a preschool class, and they had to shift 4-year-olds to remote learning. That has been quite the feat. They enjoy seeing each other, but it really quickly gets out of control because it's not an environment that they're typically used to dealing with, and they get excited, then they get bored very quickly. So the distractions to manage that when you're face to face are so much easier than when you're over this type of a medium. So a lot of new challenges that we've all had to face in this new remote type world. And it's not been an easy transition for most businesses because they didn't have the opportunity to really look at what my options are and how do I migrate that successfully? How do I train my users? How do I get adoption and buy-in from executives? It was, how do we keep working when there's nobody here? How do we deal with that? How do we continue to connect with customers? How do we continue to get produce information or process data? How do we continue to do that? So they had to do it quickly, and a lot of times you didn't have the opportunity to really vet out different solutions or different options. So, I'll say that, as Emerge, we offer a service desk as well. And that team helps supports those working users. Well, before, they were in an environment that we knew, we had documented, and we had worked with many times. Now you take that 100 people in a company and put them in 100 different remote sites or locations, and what that looks like from a support perspective and data access. Our service desk has really been thrown a curveball at adapting to that. But they're all highly skilled folks, and they've really done a good job with taking that on, that new challenge. So it's been from top to bottom, from executives to the manufacturing floor folks, all have a different perspective on how we work. So that's kind of where we are today, and looking at how we assess our current situation. Where are we? Let's all take a step back. Let's kind of close the doors to all the noise mentally about what's happening, and understand where your business is sitting today. This doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. We've talked continually to all of our customers about where they're at, what those next steps look like for their particular industry or their business. And we have literally every answer from A to B, A to Z, coming back to us. And a lot of them just don't know. They're trying to figure it out as they go. They'll take one step forward, then a half step back, then 2 steps forward and 1 step back. They're just trying to figure it out. And then that's what we continue to hear. So as we look at what cloud means to business, I'll use an example. Popular cloud platforms, iCloud, Dropbox, right? Those have been around for literally forever. They've been around for a decade, 2 decades. Why do you use cloud services? One, it's for protection. If I wake up tomorrow and my phone doesn't turn on anymore, where are my pictures? Where are those 40,000, cat videos that I have that are so amazing? What do I do to get those back? Or gosh, my child's birthday yesterday, those are gone. Well, because of the cloud, those things that mean the most to us, be it personal or professional, are protected. And that's really what you look at in a cloud service is, how do I protect my data? Not just from loss, but from inappropriate access, or access that wasn't meant to be, accidental or a hack or things like that. So which we know are on the rise in this new world that we work in. The FBI has released statistics around that. So it's hard to pinpoint why you're going to use cloud. There are so many reasons and benefits of that, from data protection to data security, all the way up to things like multi-cloud, hybrid clouds. Gosh, guess what, everybody? Anybody who's using 365 is in a cloud. It's Microsoft's email cloud. And why did that come out? Well, for many reasons. One, people are really tired of dealing with an Exchange server, a Microsoft email server, or a Novell email server. They just wanted the service to work. So as we talk about cloud, we talk about service availability, data availability. That's all important. So email just has to work. It more important today than it ever has been. My pictures just need to be there. Cloud is a service, and it's a service that provides you peace of mind. It provides you the ability to sleep well at night, knowing that data is protected. So yeah, my 10,000 photos I've got on mine, I'm good. Sometimes my spouse doesn't exactly know where the cloud is, and I tell her that that's not important, honey. Well, I've got that. So it's really not so much the where, but the why, and that's really where businesses start. Is why do I want to consider cloud adoption, and what that really means? Stability of the environment, financial reasons, quickly to scale your operation, to build that out. Cloud offers all those different benefits, and in many cases, the internal resources that you have working for you in IT, they should be focused on business objectives, not making sure the server's up and then it gets backed up every night. So those are a lot of those things that really help drive. In the other side of that is not everything is cloud ready. Applications like email, perfect cloud example. Applications like CAD or design like that, that's a little more challenging because of the particular technical requirements. So we look at a lot of companies that focus on how they move to cloud, and we have helped many customers with doing that. I think some of the customers are actually on the call today, which is great. We've been fortunate enough to help them work in their business to adopt cloud and to build that foundation. And for many of those folks who did that earlier on or in process and consideration of doing that, that has been a big help to their business in this time. So we talk a little bit about, what would move in a cloud. 365, email, easy. Your CAD files, not so easy. So we look at some of those technical perspectives, and work with your teams to identify what is and what isn't appropriate to move. And sometimes it's both. Some things do move, and some things don't move. So I think that today we have a lot of customers in that model, and that's okay, because not all vendors, not all applications are there. And we think that cloud has been around for so long, why aren't they there? Well, they're just not. And a lot of times those business vendors have a product, and a product life cycle might be 5 to 10 years. And they just update the versions. So not everything is ready. We can help identify what is and what isn't. Timing. When do I move to cloud? How about when it's right for your business? Not when it's right for your, hey, this thing's going to die soon. I understand that, but if your business depends on it, how do we get through that process? We don't want to, hey, if you're a CPA firm, you're doing taxes the first quarter of the year, probably not a good time to move to cloud. We look at business interruption. We look at business continuity. Those are all pieces of cloud services that we can offer and we can help you with in transitioning from where you are now, where you've adopted maybe XYZ service to do video conferencing or data sharing, whatever it is, we need to look at that and say, is that the right tool going forward? We had to adopt something, right? So,
Hey, Joe,
yes.
have a question here, and this might be a good spot to talk about the collaboration a little bit too. But I have what are my options to take calls when no one is in the office? So that is definitely a great question. And Greg, do you want to talk, answer that, but also talk to kind of what if people had to do collaboration wise? Because, everything that we're doing today is a little bit of both, but, I think speaking directly to that would probably be good.
Sure. So, I mean, historically, collaboration, in the last 15, 10, even close to 5 years, right, has been an on-premises game. Not super cloud friendly. It limits the use of those tools and technologies outside of the office. And what we've seen with the increase in reliability of internet speeds and bandwidth is the adoption, or at least the platform to be able to start to adopt those technologies outside of your organization. And then the vendors that have come to the table with those solutions to not only do voice and video in the cloud, but also to extend maybe existing on-premise solutions beyond your traditional office walls, right? Ultimately, us or at least myself as a collaboration engineer, has been trying to convince everybody that adopting video would allow them to have a flexible workplace for a long time. And it only, just took one global pandemic to make that happen within 1 month's time frame, right? So we'll accept that if that's what gets the doors open to having these types of conversations. But know that these options are not just newly available, right? They're tried and true. They have use cases where it makes a lot of sense and they're business ready. They're not just consumer level, type cloud products. And so while in the past it was super hard, right? It's turned out that it's much easier than we thought now to be able to extend our existing collaboration solutions outside of our four walls and then consume them in the cloud as well. Originally things had much more of a secure aspect to them because they were inside of those four walls. And again, extending those solutions usually has a security component to them. But as people are adopting some of these business-like services, while some of them have security at the forefront of the operation, some of them don't, right? So what we want to bring to that table is to talk about, whether or not people are, as they've adopted these things quickly, right, whether they're keeping in mind the same goals that they would normally have in adoption of a technology within their organization as they consume these types of services in the cloud. And so, specifically, the question that we had was around, how do we extend telephony services, right, when nobody's in the office? Some of the easiest ways to do that, right, would be to just do call forwarding, right? Everybody has a mobile device. That's certainly changed a lot in 10 and 15 years. And it becomes not so much of an issue about, who has a phone number, where that phone number is going, but, we just forward those calls, right? That's an easy thing to do. What that can do is it can stress the capacity of your existing systems. So because you're essentially doubling the amount of calls you're going to send in, right? You have one coming in, you're forwarding that call back out. That's something to consider. More recently, in the last few years, right, is the capability of doing a VPN on a laptop with a soft phone. And that makes it real easy to extend your existing telephone number to software-based phone and use the audio resources within inside of your laptop to accomplish having a phone call. And then additionally, we're seeing with newer on-premise technologies, VPN-less solutions where you can use secure TLS proxies to allow the registration, again, of those same soft phones or even physical desk phones at your location at home to come back to the office and then extend communications to a traditional handset or again to a soft phone, but without the added complexity of necessarily having a VPN. So really, those are kind of the three easiest ways to extend an on-premises telephone system out beyond your four walls and to enable people to continue to do work.
Awesome. So actually, Joe, this might fit in with your, kind of going back to talking about when and the timeline for adoption, which, had a super quick rush, but have somebody, they before all of this talking about pursuing the cloud and hosted services, kind of what is that next step? And you can probably talk to, next steps pandemic wise or regular time wise, whatever will be best to communicate that to this question for, how, what's the next step?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and a lot of when this all began, a lot of folks came to us and said, "I need to do X. How do I do that quickly?" And we did help a lot of those customers and new customers alike transition into something, and a lot of times that was something that was either, hey, we really need something quick, we need something easy to implement, easy to use. And we'll choose a solution, we'll implement that and help them out for that. I'll say right now, a lot of the companies are kind of in that status quo. And really what I'm more interested in is what you've chosen. What are the good and bad of that? What pros and cons have you found in the solution you're in? Let's talk about what those opportunities are, and we need to assess where are you today. Gosh, you've made these quick changes. Your business was humming along, on the local freeway and just on cruise. Wow, we just put up a bunch of road construction signs and barrels everywhere. So you're having to navigate that. So having even a brief conversation around where you are today and what your business goals are so important, so that we can make that next step a really productive one and meet those goals. So if it's customer communication, is it internal communication, is it document or data sharing, what those different components are. I'll say we have faced that road construction many times and have put down a fresh layer of blacktop and smoothed it out for them. But it's really understanding where you are today, what your business objectives are. And that does take a little bit of a conversation around, is it voice and collaboration? Is it cloud services, email services, data services? Hey, I can't get in my office anymore. I don't even know if my data is being backed up because we can't change the tapes. We can't change the drives. All those pieces of service levels have been disrupted. And so understanding where we're at, let's have a short conversation around what that next step is, where you are today, and what your ultimate goals are.
Cool. I think a question just came in directed, Greg, you can probably take this one. But would you say with the massive adoption of cloud services, especially cloud UC and meetings like WebEx, has that proven cloud is ready?
Absolutely. I mean, so what we've seen across all the different vendors that host meetings is, publicly them stating, hey, look, that we've experienced an exponential increase in the amount of meetings that we've hosted every month, from either a minutes perspective or a number of users perspective, right? Additionally, with services like Down Detector or with status pages for cloud services, you're able to get a feel for whether or not those services have been online and what historically those outages have been for those services. And so what we're seeing is that, while the cloud again has a high level of uptime, occasionally there will be an outage, right? But you have to know that as part of any cloud service that you're going to consume, there is that opportunity. Usually, more often than not, if there are issues, as it were, with a service, it generally tends to be either a localized problem, right, within somebody's internet. Let's say now that we're all working from home, something to consider is, is my bandwidth up to snuff, right? Do I need to maybe increase my plan to extend the fact that I have a handful of children that may also not currently be in school, but were in school and doing lessons online, and or then maybe doing other activities, streaming video, those types of things, right? And so certainly the vendors themselves have provided the services. They've expanded their offerings as far as capacity is concerned. My experience is I can't do my job in a day-to-day without those services, and I've been able to accomplish it with very little interruption or problem. Usually, if there is some sort of a hiccup, as we've seen, there might be a microphone situation, right, that where something doesn't work, and we're able to usually overcome that by restarting or rejoining a meeting. But yes,
That might be a good spot. I know we've done some blog posts around it, and I know there's been some talk internally, but just for those hiccups that you have, because bandwidth is being so used up, and everybody is here in this new environment. What are some tips that either you've used yourself or that you've communicated out to current customers to kind of enhance that experience since they've adopted this across the board?
Sure. So, the hidden secret amongst all IT professionals is that a reboot solves 95% of problems, right? And so start with that, right? If you're experiencing a problem, reboot the workstation or the phone or the tablet device that you're using to connect to any sort of cloud meeting or calling application, right? Second would be, try and reboot your router, right? There may be the possibility that thing's been sitting in a corner getting dust, right? And it hasn't been rebooted in quite some time. That can certainly refresh things as well. And then once you've done that, checking to make sure that your bandwidth is up to par, right? Using some sort of a speed test, either through your local provider that gives your internet service, or a national speedtest.net, something like that, to make sure that not only that you're getting the appropriate amount of speed, but you're not dropping packets, meaning you're not losing chunks of data, and that your latency is fairly low. Anything below 100 milliseconds should suffice. Anything below 50 would be preferable.
All right, cool. Joe, this one is probably a little bit more you, just because very general. But what type of cloud services do we offer? And I know cloud is a very loaded loaded word. So yeah, take that one, Joe.
So I think most people have a perception of what cloud is. I'll say specifically around the types of services we can do. Obviously, we can help in email migration. We've done that dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Moving to 365, that puts the email in the cloud. A lot of times that's someone's first introduction to a true cloud service for their business. Then we offer items all the way up to full system hosting. We actually have 2 data centers that we operate, one here in Cincinnati, as well as one in Greenville, South Carolina, that either house production or backup data, business continuity data, disaster recovery data there or here, depending on their strategy. But we offer, we can bring in all of your systems, anything that's in your office, we can migrate that over to our data center. We can provide access through VPN to that service from anywhere. We can access it through virtual desktops, which are desktops that people would connect to securely, access data in the data center. We have a combination of those architectures between our different customers, depending on what their needs are and their applications and how they work. So, we also provide backup, data replication. If something happens where, hey, I can't get to the office anymore, how's my data getting backed up? I can't get in the building. I was supposed to change the drives or change something, do something that I can't do anymore. We're able to help with that, make sure that data that you're using, that you're updating regularly, gets backed up. It gets replicated to our data center, replicated to other services as well. And also for business continuity, all the way up to, hey, I need immediate failover. My storage network in my office has completely failed. I have no access to any of my data. I need to spin that up somewhere else. We can have that business continuity plan in place, and those technical pieces already moved over, prior to that happening, and we can turn you up in either our data center that's in Cincinnati or in South Carolina. So, for backup, business continuity, disaster protection, full system hosting, IaaS, you hear that term a lot, infrastructure as a service, which basically I'm going to provide your hardware, your compute, your storage. You're going to drop on your operating system, your Windows boxes, your application data, et cetera, which is typically file and app servers. And so in a combination of all those I just talked about. So and up to hybrid. So if you already have a cloud provider, but you still are missing services or want to work with a local partner, we're certainly, more than willing to help and to integrate a hybrid cloud with our data centers or any of those services I mentioned.
Cool. I have something from John. So we don't believe we'll be in the office anytime soon, and we have made the investment in providing this tool and for our employees. What are some steps we can take to fully integrate meetings into our business?
Sure. So, I mean, most businesses are looking for a way to connect, right, with their clients in a meaningful way to preserve those existing relationships, or they're just trying to build new ones, right? They're trying to acquire new clients as part of an ongoing effort to be productive and essentially be healthy, right? Audio can only do that so much, and the meetings applications, right, with the video has helped to kind of close that gap, to be able to bring us together, to be able to talk, to be able to have those what we feel like are true connections when we can see each other, when you can see someone laugh and read their expressions, right? As far as adopting, the technology even further, right, going beyond, I've got an account, right, and can I consume it, and can I have those meetings, right? How do we take that another step? Ultimately, know your solution, right? And is that solution working for you? If it is, fantastic. Then maybe you look at some, additional adoption and training on that. If it's not working for you, maybe try and identify why it's not working, right? And that's something that we can certainly help with from a cloud discovery perspective. And not only that, but maybe we're able to help resolve that, right? Figure out what that thing is that's not working for you, or in general, helping you to get the most out of those meetings. If it is working for you, then maybe, enhance that experience with a couple of things, right? Bad audio will kill a meeting more than anything. If you have trouble hearing people, or you have trouble with, audio being repeated back through a computer, right? And that does happen, in most cases. Most modern microphones can do some adjustment and figure that out and not repeat the audio that's coming through the speakers. But what will help when you have either a crowded environment or a noisy environment is certainly looking into a headset with noise canceling capabilities, right? Certainly, as you take this solution and maybe bring it back to your office spaces, you trust employees to come back and they go through the proper ways of coming back to the office based on the state. You may still want to have customer meetings that are remote and not on site. And, in a more crowded environment, you're going to need that noise canceling functionality for people to not only hear themselves while they're in meetings, but also to not hear background noise that's going on, right? Obviously, if you're not turning on video, start turning on video. Be prepared, right? Be groomed and somewhat presentable. Having this sort of interaction and being able to see each other makes a world of difference. Know your buttons and inside of the application, right? It's rather than trying to fumble for the share content feature, right? Know where it is, memorize where it is, know the options, right? Are you going to share your entire screen, or are you just going to share the application? Maybe you have other sensitive data open. So you want to make sure that you're limiting that application that you're sharing. Know when to mute, right? If you have a large meeting with lots of people, right? It's beneficial to start out muted and then unmute yourself as you are needed to participate, because that's going to eliminate a lot of those random dog barks or kids yelling or things of that nature. Utilize chat, right? But also utilize it effectively and realize that there's the potential that people within the organization or on the meeting can see what it is you're messaging and be thoughtful, and that you're not saying something that would be unbusinesslike. Look into recording meetings as long as that's appropriate, and you notify the participants to be able to give them yourselves the opportunity to either reference that information later or share it with other individuals so they can get the same benefit if they weren't able to attend. Know how to lock a meeting, how to shut people out, right? If you either want to put a pin on, or if you want to keep it open but then lock it out later. that can be super beneficial, as we've seen, in the news with some other particular video platforms being open to attacks that way. Don't be afraid to use it beyond just your laptop, right? Look at the possibility of using it on mobile devices or tablets, and you can be much more less tied to even your home office desk, right? In that way, and then ultimately you can use it as a way internally to not only not only meet externally with customers, but also meet internally, right? One of the things that we have done here at Emerge to boost morale is to schedule lunches where we all just get together on video and eat our sandwiches and talk and get together the way we would in a lunchroom, right? And so find creative ways to use the technology to not only communicate outside of your organization, but to keep things going and high levels of morale inside your organization.
Yeah, Greg, I think that's a really good point. I mean, even going into some of the etiquette issues of, keeping things muted and, making sure that, even though it is a different environment, it's a little bit more casual, that, we're still needing to keep it professional as much as we can. So I think, once we can get back into the office, still utilizing this technology, it's going to be, interesting how that dynamic changes. So here's a good one, cloud specific, from Craig. I don't know if my applications are cloud ready. How do I determine that?
That's a great question. I mentioned that a few minutes ago, that not every application is cloud ready. We have I'll say, a very comprehensive list of applications Emerge does that we've had great success with. We can certainly understand what those applications are. They might be something simple, or hey, we've had to go through the vendor with this particular tweak and it works great. Or hey, they recommend moving from this platform to that platform. So we do have a lot of experience with whether an application is ready or it's not ready. And we're happy to say which is which, because you still have to use your applications to run your business. And that's how your data is moved between employees, made between vendors. So we can't just say, well, just don't use it, because that's not part of your business. If it's part of your business, we need to simply advise or educate on what can work and what doesn't work. So there's not a hard and fast rule about how to determine that. A lot of times the vendor of the application will have some pretty decent information or feedback on whether or not an application or version is cloud ready, and also give you some recommendations around how that cloud should look and what those requirements should be. Amanda, you're muted.
See, look at that. Etiquette and knowing, and yeah, all this time.
You're the best of us.
Oh, anyhow, thanks for that. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left. So if anybody has any further questions, want to make sure that we're very cognizant, speaking of etiquette, of everybody's time today. I think one last one here, and then Greg and Joe, I'll ask you guys to kind of close up. It's how do I determine which why fits? There's a lot of whys around the cloud. I mean, dealing with the content development and everything. I mean, Joe, I know you and I have gone around a million times about content for the cloud, and there's so many whys, and there's so many reasons not to. So what would be your answer for that?
Wow, that's a pretty open-ended question. So the difficult part about that is, I should say, the why always start with the business goal. It has to start with a business. Maybe it's financial. Obviously, that rolls into an IT budget and things like that. So everything's intertwined. But what is the benefit to the business goal of moving to a cloud or cloud service? And that really has to be drilled into. It's not simply, hey, the CEO went to a conference and they think we should go cloud, so I need to make that happen. Well, let's back up a couple steps, because like anything, there has to be a foundation. And if the foundation if it's not built in the right place, if it's not built with the right tools or the right materials, we're going to have a dramatic failure here, and we don't want that. And so we're going to caution, we're going to advise, we're going to help step through that process of what really is the benefit of cloud to the business objectives you're trying to meet. And let's take it back into the leadership of the business and clarify that. So that really is kind of step one, and that's the driver for everything else. It's not, hey, cloud's cheaper, let's move to cloud instead of buying new gear. Well, hold on, depends on what you're doing in cloud that can be cheaper. Some things might be more expensive. So it's like any other service, it has to be evaluated to meet the goals of the business.
Awesome. Okay, I do have one more, and very timely as we're coming up on the end of our meeting or our webinar. Let's see. Angela says, we love the ability to have meetings, but how do we continue the conversation once the meeting is over? Greg, I'm interested in this too.
Sure. So, I think that's the one we've adopted the most, right? Outside of the opportunity to either forward phones or take phones home and provide that communication, right? Or it could be simple as just using your regular mobile phone to make those calls to customers. Meetings obviously is that next step, that way to essentially get together in a live environment, have that conversation. And we can record those, right? That's one way that we can continue that conversation after the fact, is to provide that content or that meeting to other individuals. But I think what's important to note is there's additional collaboration tools beyond just the meeting experience in a live environment, right? And generally those are referred to as persistent messaging, or they can also be called Teams applications, right? And what those tools will do essentially is allow you to either internally within your own organization, or not only internally but externally with other organizations, have space-like communication where you're able to facilitate that conversation ongoing, right? If we met about a particular topic, you're able to then create a room that has that topic maybe as the name, right, for that room. Add people from both inside and outside your organization to communicate within that tool. And then from there, continue to either share content, right? Schedule meetings, have individual discussions, share files, right? Go beyond just what you talked about within that, but then take maybe action items that you had and then extend that conversation. Now, that from a security perspective, when we think about meetings, right, we can usually pin protect things, or we can lock meetings, or they're limited based on a one-time use, right? To who we invite those people to meetings, and that's pretty secure by default. These newer tools, as it were, for collaboration that extend that conversation beyond that, if you open it up to people outside of your organization, you really need to have a consideration about what regulatory compliance that you have to meet within your business and how that applies to that tool. You also have to think about the security of that tool, right? What are the published data points about that cloud tool as how it deals with security? Is it by default, or is it something you have to turn on? And then additionally, if you're going to be sharing content, whether it be verbal, right, or written, as well as documents, you need to understand, how can I control that as an organization and apply security policies, either through compliance, where it automatically will look for certain business technology and terms, and then maybe automatically delete messages, right? Pull that information back and then alert a compliance officer. Or how do we prevent, the sharing of particular files in the first place, where they can do deep inspection and take a look at the files, and then potentially stop that, some trade secrets from being shared with other individuals outside the organization as well, right? Additionally, how do we apply security to it? How do we ensure that this doesn't become an avenue by which, our business gets attacked, right? And then that attack then lends itself to more attacks within inside of our organization, or collecting of data. So really, excellent tools provide a lot of communication capabilities internally at Emerge. We're using tools, other customers that we know are adopting these tools as well. But what counts at the onset is that you think about it and how you adopt it with inside your organization. How am I going to apply the same business rules I would with any other software, and then apply it to this cloud solution that I'm then going to adopt? And then lastly, around that, providing training. No new tool can be truly adopted within an organization without some sort of a champion, somebody that really believes that this is going to transform the business, understands how the tool is going to help people within the organization use that tool, and then transform the way that they go to work every day. And then providing that training so that people understand not only how to truly use it from a technical perspective, but also the reasons why they're going to use it, right? How is this going to change my day to day? How am I going to interact with other people in the organization? How is this going to allow me to facilitate speeding up how we go to market and how we do business with our customers?
Awesome. Thank you. I think everything's been kind of quiet for a minute here. So yeah, in our last couple minutes, just want to make sure everybody knows we're doing complimentary cloud cost and ROI analysis. We want to make sure it's a smooth process, as where you're at now develops into what's next for you. Joe, do you have any thoughts on that? Any thoughts, kind of what the process will be like there? Is we offer up time so they can get that understanding.
Certainly, I think the majority of people who are out there, majority of business, are looking at cloud in some respect. They're either sitting back and waiting, or they're in some level of adoption or considering adoption, and some folks have done full adoption. No matter where you are in that process, I'll say a conversation with us around where you are, what you're planning to be. I think there's a lot, it can help answer a lot of questions. Sometimes you just want to have someone who has the knowledge, the experience, to just ask some questions like, I've seen this, I've seen that, I heard about somebody trying to do this, would that work for me? You can't find those particular answers online very easy. There's a lot of canned information out there. If you want to take that opportunity with us and sit down, let's talk about what those options look like, what those capabilities are. We're more than happy to sit down and talk about any of the cloud services, whether it be ours or also hybrid cloud services around other vendors, and how they would work in your business. So sometimes you just want that. I need online learning is great, but sometimes I need to talk to an instructor type of a situation. So, and we can help you there.
Yeah.
Right.
To add on to that, the great thing about the collaboration tools that we talked about, right, is they're easy to consume. But really talking with somebody that's been through a deployment and understands what the next steps are around thoughtful consideration as it pertains to regulatory compliance, security, and user adoption training services, right? That's the type of thing that we can help provide with an ROI analysis around those technologies.
Awesome. Yeah, and everybody that's on, whether you're a current customer of Emerge or you've joined in with us today, we will be sending out follow-up, and then we'll have links to be able to get this set up. If you're a current customer, simply reach out to your account manager, and they'll be happy to get this set up for you. So with that, thank you all for attending. Greg, Joe, any last thoughts?
Greg, go ahead. It's been a whirlwind, right, for everybody. And from everything that you're trying to get done every day, the simple things now become really difficult tasks. And whether that's finishing the document and saving it and sharing it, or everything else. We know everyone has been through quite a bit of relentless change the past 2 months, and we really would like the opportunity to kind of sit down and say, hey, we know we went through this together. A lot of our tools were already meant for that, or are in our own cloud, so we are well prepared for it. But at the same time, we shared that experience with many of our customers going through it. So we'd be happy to share our experience and help you out.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, I don't see anything else today. Thank you, Greg and Joe, for your time and your, expertise today. I think this was super helpful. Again, thank you everybody for attending. Make sure, follow us on all of the social media channels. And, if you want help with those next steps, we are definitely here to help and happy to assist. So thanks, guys, and have a good day.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.